The day I came home from Vancouver, I found a stranger's name on the deed to my condo. I remember standing in the lobby of my own building, the one on King Street West in Toronto, the one I'd spent 6 years saving for holding a piece of mail addressed to someone I had never heard of. Amen, named Derek Callahan, listed as the registered owner of Unit 1104. I stood there for a long time. The elevator opened and closed twice without me stepping in. My sister had the keys. She had my power of attorney. And she had 11 months while I was away to do whatever she wanted. I want to tell you what happened, all of it. Because the part that still keeps me up at night isn't even the condo. It's that she laughed when I found out. Let me back up. My name is Maya. I'm 31 years old. I work in corporate compliance. I spend my days tracing financial flows, flagging irregularities, and writing reports that most people never read but that occasionally land someone in serious legal trouble. It is, as my mother likes to say, not a very exciting job for a young woman, but it pays well, and it taught me to read documents very carefully. I bought my condo in Toronto 4 years ago. 1 bedroom, 800 square feet, 14th floor, 12th. The building skips 13 with a west-facing window that goes orange every evening in summer. I paid $487,000 for it. I put down $97,400. I worked 2 jobs for 3 years to save that down payment. I ate a lot of rice and beans. I didn't take a vacation for 2 years straight. My sister, I'll call her by her role, because that's all she is to me now. My sister is 2 years older than me. She's always been the one the family described as the pretty one, the social one, the one who knows how to talk to people. I was the one who studied, the one who was too serious, the one who, as my father once told a family friend, doesn't know how to enjoy life. When my company offered me a 14-month contract in Vancouver, a real opportunity, a promotion that would change my trajectory, I had a problem. My condo, my mortgage, my mail, all the small administrative things that pile up when you're gone. I asked my sister. She said yes immediately, enthusiastically. Of course, Maya, I'll take care of everything. You focus on your career. That's so exciting. I remember feeling grateful. Relieved. I remember thinking that maybe I'd been too hard on her over the years. Too quick to judge. Too slow to give her credit. I drew up a limited power of attorney. Specific. Restricted. She could manage the condo, pay the maintenance fees from an account I'd set up, collect my mail, liaise with the property management office if anything came up. I went to a notary in Mississauga. Everything was signed. Everything was documented. I left for Vancouver in September. I came back the following November. The first sign something was wrong wasn't the mail with Derek Callahan's name on it. That was the confirmation. The first sign was 3 weeks before I came home, when I tried to log into my condo's online owner portal, the property management website, where you pay fees and submit maintenance requests, and my login didn't work. I figured it was a technical glitch. I emailed the property management office. They responded in 2 days. Hi Maya, thank you for reaching out. Our records show that Unit 1104 was transferred to a new owner in June. If you have questions about the sale, please contact your real estate agent or legal representative. I read that email 4 times. Then I called my sister. She didn't answer. She didn't answer the second time either. On the third call, she picked up, and I could hear noise in the background, a restaurant maybe, or a bar. She sounded happy. Maya, how's Vancouver? Almost home? I asked her what happened to my condo. There was a pause. Then she said, very calmly, as if she were explaining something to a child. I sold it. You were never here anyway, and you were going to sell eventually. I found a good buyer. The market was strong in June. I said nothing. I genuinely could not speak. The money is invested, she said. It's actually doing really well. I put it into something with much better returns than a depreciating Toronto condo. You should be thanking me. I hung up. I sat on my couch in my Vancouver apartment, the furnished 1-bedroom I'd been renting month to month, and I stared at the wall for probably 40 minutes. Then I did what I always do when something is wrong. I opened my laptop, and I started pulling documents. Here is what I found. My sister had used the power of attorney, the limited, specifically scoped document I had signed at the notary in Mississauga, to execute a full transfer of title on my property. She had signed on my behalf. The deed transfer went through in June, and the buyer, Derek Callahan, had paid $561,000 for my unit. Market had gone up considerably since I bought. She had received $561,000, and I had received nothing. Not a single transfer to any account I owned. I checked everything. Every account. Every possible place money could have landed. Gone. I pulled the sale documents. I called the notary whose name appeared on the transfer. Not the same one who had witnessed my POA. A different one. Someone I had never met. I am not going to detail everything I found right away. But what I will tell you is this. The power of attorney I signed authorized her to manage the property. It did not authorize her to sell it. A limited POA in Ontario is exactly that, limited. Selling a property requires either a general power of attorney or specific language authorizing real estate transactions. Mine had neither. What my sister had done was either convince a notary that the document covered the sale or something worse. I booked a flight home for the following week, and I spent that week very, very quietly doing my homework. I want to tell you about the moment I called my mother, because it is the moment the last piece of something inside me shifted. I called her from Vancouver, the evening before my flight. I was calm. I had my notes in front of me. I told her what had happened, that my sister had sold my condo without legal authority to do so, that $561,000 was missing, that I was coming home and I was going to pursue this legally. My mother was quiet for a moment, then she said, "Maya, your sister has 2 children, and her husband just lost his job. She needed that money more than you do. You have your career. You're doing well. Why do you always have to make everything into a fight?" I asked her if she knew about it beforehand. She said, "Don't ask me questions like that." I said good night, and I hung up the phone. I did not sleep that night, but I did finish my documentation. When I landed in Toronto, it was a Tuesday in November, cold and gray, the way Toronto is in November, the kind of cold that comes off the lake and gets into your coat. I did not go to the family home. I did not go to see my sister. I went to my lawyer. I should explain I have a lawyer because my job occasionally requires one, a woman I've worked with on compliance matters for 3 years. I sent her everything the night before. When I sat down across from her the next morning, she had already read it. She looked at me over her glasses and said, "This is straightforward and it is ugly. The POA did not authorize this sale. The notary who certified the transfer either made a significant error or was misled about the scope of the document. The buyer almost certainly has title insurance, which means his position is protectable. Your sister committed fraud." I already knew all of that, but hearing someone else say it out loud made it real in a different way. We filed a report with Toronto Police Service that afternoon. Deed fraud is taken seriously in Ontario. The transfer was flagged. We also contacted the Law Society regarding the notary, and we reached out to the buyer's lawyer to explain the situation before he heard it from anyone else. The buyer, Derek Callahan. I want to say something about him, because he came up in my mind a lot during all of this. He had nothing to do with it. He bought a condo in good faith. He paid fair market value. He was the other victim in this, in a quieter way, and I felt terrible about the disruption to his life. His title insurance did cover him. He did not have to pay twice, but he had to live through weeks of uncertainty. And that was not something I caused, but something I felt responsible for, in the particular way you feel responsible for damage that radiates outward from something done to you. My sister called me 2 days after the police report was filed. She had apparently heard from someone I still don't know who that I had gone to the authorities. The call lasted 4 minutes. She said I was destroying the family. She said I was selfish. She said that everything she had ever done for me, watching my condo, forwarding my mail, being my caretaker while I was off building my career, none of it mattered to me. She said, "You always thought you were better than me. This is just your excuse to prove it." I let her finish. Then I said, "I didn't call the police because I think I'm better than you. I called the police because you stole $561,000 from me, and I would like it back." She hung up. My father called an hour later. He told me I was breaking my mother's heart. He told me my sister's children would grow up knowing their aunt had put their mother in jail. He told me I should think about what kind of person I was becoming. I told my father that the kind of person I was becoming was someone who did not allow people to steal $500,000 from her regardless of their last name. He said something after that, something sharp and unkind, and I ended the call. I want to be honest with you about how that felt, because I think people expect that when you do the right thing, you feel righteous. You feel strong. The music swells. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like grief. It feels like something that was already broken, finally breaking all the way, and the sound it makes is not dramatic. It's quiet. It's the sound of a door you didn't realize you were keeping open finally, softly closing. There is a restaurant on Adelaide Street, the kind of place with exposed brick and a prix-fixe menu that changes seasonally, the kind my sister loves because it makes her feel like she's arrived somewhere. She goes there with her friends on Friday evenings. I knew this because she had posted it to her Instagram at least a dozen times in the past year. The same restaurant, the same corner table, the same glass of Malbec. It was 3 weeks after my return to Toronto. My lawyer had been in contact with the Crown. Things were moving slowly, as legal things do, but moving. My sister had retained a lawyer of her own. There had been no direct communication between us. I had not planned to go to Adelaide Street that Friday. I was meeting a colleague for dinner at a place nearby, and we finished early. and I was walking back to the subway, and I saw her through the window. She was laughing. Her hair was blown out. She was wearing a coat I didn't recognize new. The kind of camel wool coat that runs $400 at Holt Renfrew. She was clinking glasses with two women I vaguely recognized from old family gatherings. I stood on the sidewalk in the cold for a moment. Then I walked in. I didn't make a scene. I want to be clear about that. I walked to her table, and I stood there until she looked up and saw me. And I watched the laughter leave her face in real time. And I said, very quietly, so that only she and the women at her table could hear, I just wanted you to know that the hearing is scheduled for the 14th. I hope the coat was worth it. Then I left. I know some people might say that was unnecessary. Maybe it was. But I had spent 6 years eating rice and beans for that down payment, and she had spent my money on a camel coat and a Malbec on Adelaide Street, and I needed her to know that I saw her. Here is what happened with the money. It is, I think, the part that people most need to understand, because it is the part that is least satisfying and most real. My sister did not have $561,000 in a bank account. She never did. The money moved quickly, and in multiple directions. Some of it paid off debt she and her husband had accumulated over several years. Some of it went toward a car. Some of it was genuinely invested in a private fund that had since declined significantly in value, and a portion, my lawyer believes, roughly $80,000, was simply spent over the course of 5 months on living expenses, the coat, meals, a trip to Cancun that I saw on Instagram before I blocked her. The legal process of recovery is ongoing. In Ontario, when fraud is established, the defrauded party can pursue civil action, in addition to the criminal proceedings. My sister's assets, the car, whatever remains in the investment account, are subject to a civil judgment. It is not fast. It is not clean. The number I will actually recover is probably not $561,000. But something else happened that I did not expect. My sister's husband, who I want to be clear, was not charged with anything, and whose involvement I genuinely do not know the full extent of, left her 3 months after the charges were filed. He took the children to his parents' house in Barrie. My mother called me to tell me this as if it were my fault. I told my mother that I had not married her husband, I had not made her choices, and I was not responsible for the consequences of those choices. My mother said, "You are so cold, Maya. You were always so cold." I have thought about that sentence many times since. Whether it is true, whether being someone who documents things, who files reports, who does not let $561,000 disappear into a camel coat and a trip to Cancun, whether that is cold, or whether it is just the word people use when a woman refuses to absorb the cost of someone else's decisions. I don't have a clean answer. I'm still working on it. What I do have is this. I have a furnished rental in the annex that I like more than I expected. I have a lawyer who returns my calls. I have a civil judgment pending that my lawyer believes will ultimately result in meaningful recovery. Not the full amount, but something. I have a job that I am good at, and that I return to every Monday morning. I have a brother-in-law who, through his own lawyer, sent me a brief message saying he was sorry about what happened. I don't know what to do with that yet. I have a best friend who picked me up from the airport when I came back from Vancouver and drove me to my lawyer's office the next morning without asking a single unnecessary question. I have not said enough about her in this story, and she deserves more than a paragraph. But she knows. I have the documentation, every page of it, the original limited POA, the transfer deed, the correspondence with the property management office, the notary records, the bank statements I subpoenaed, the Instagram posts, archived, dated, cross-referenced with financial transactions in a spreadsheet that my compliance brain built on a Sunday afternoon in Vancouver when I couldn't sleep. My sister thought she was dealing with a younger sister, who was too far away and too trusting and too busy with her career to notice. She forgot that I notice everything. That I have always noticed everything. That noticing things is, in fact, my entire job. The last thing I want to say is for the people in the comments, and I know who you are, because I was one of you once, reading stories like this one and thinking, why didn't she just call the police sooner? Why did she give her sister that much access? Why did she trust anyone with something that important? I trusted my sister, because she was my sister. Because when you grow up sharing a bathroom and a backseat and a childhood with someone, you build a baseline of trust that takes years of evidence to override. Because the alternative, treating your family like suspects, feels like a kind of poverty that money can't fix. Because I was 26 when I bought that condo, and 30 when I left for Vancouver, and I was still, in some small corner of myself, the younger sister, who wanted to believe that the older one had her back. I gave her my POA, because I thought she was doing me a favor. I called the police because she wasn't. Those two things can both be true. And for anyone who is reading this and thinking that going to the police on your own family is going too far, I hear you. I understand the instinct. But I want you to consider that the person who stole from me did not have that same hesitation. She did not agonize over the family impact of liquidating my life savings. She did not lose sleep over whether her children would one day understand what she had done to their aunt. She bought a coat. If you have someone in your life who would do that, the police is not too far. It is exactly far enough. My name is Maya. I'm 31 years old. I live in the annex now, in a rental I'm actually starting to like. My west-facing condo on King Street West sold for $561,000 in June, and I intend to see most of that money again. I'm a compliance analyst. I find things people try to hide. My sister knew that. She just didn't think it applied to her.